Hey everybody, I wanted to do kind of a traditional lecture with you guys this week, just to kind of talk about grunge and talk about some of the design aspects of this assignment that you did last week. I threw a few different terms at you. I threw the word grunge, and I think I mentioned on the assignment that I wanted you guys to first and foremost try to do some research on the word. If you did that, you found out that grunge not only is a visual style, but it's also kind of a musical style. Started back in the 90s, really with the rock band Nirvana. That's really when the grunge movement sort of took off. But grunge was all about the unkept nature of that style of music. Everything from the recording itself was imperfect. Their clothing may have been torn or dirtied or weathered and imperfect. But everything about grunge was just sort of imperfect and distorted and a little bit rough around the edges, or maybe a lot rough around the edges. The grunge visual style is very much the same thing. Grunge is all about this look that's very distorted or beaten or rusted or holy or scratched in a certain way. It's just a very, very dirty looking type of design. Now we also, of course, have to keep that professional, but grunge by definition is just sort of a dirty, distorted, weathered type of look. So that's one thing. I also threw the term punk out to you. And punk is a different type of musical style. It is within the rock genre, of course, but punk in general is a little bit more kept. If you think about what punk rockers might look like, they may have the very large mohawks that took a long time to style. Their attire is going to be different. There's not going to be as much worn or holy type of stuff. When I say holy, I mean like holes in it, right? Not like religious. So, but punk is going to have a lot more of your black, your leather, your metal accessories, maybe spikes or collars or belts or whatnot. But and punk is also very much more into the political side of things, where maybe it's more about anarchy or kind of going against the government or against the man, if you will. Grunge doesn't really give a rip about anything, where punk is more of an organized resistance. Those two don't really jive together. You know, even though they're both sort of in the rock and roll type of genre, they're very different in the way that they look. So first of all, I gave you some conflicting things, and that's what a lot of your clients will do. You know, they'll think they know a lot about what they're talking about, but if they knew everything, they wouldn't need you to design for them. So I've given you some of this conflict here. I've told you to design a grunge design while also giving you the word punk. So it's confusing from the very beginning. I also provided some images there for you, and out of all those images, there were some that probably didn't belong to really either one of these. I think you could arguably say at least the boots image was goth. And goth is another thing altogether, where maybe it has more of a dark meaning, even religious in a sense. But goth is a very different thing than the other two, so maybe that doesn't quite fit with the little punk fashion design you have to do. Part of being a good designer is always about knowing your audience and knowing your client. You got to research them, and it's your position to go back to them and say, hey, listen, I'm kind of confused over some of this. I'm torn over the direction I should go. Do you want this grunge design? Do you want this punk design? Maybe you try to combine the two. Maybe you give them one or two of each and let them know. But sometimes being a designer is about coming to that client and saying, hey, something isn't quite right here with what you're doing. And it's also about picking the right images, you know. So if a big part of your design was based around that boot, and it seems like in this class there's always a few that really just put that boot in there as a big prominent thing, may not be the perfect idea, because that boot, it doesn't really fit with grunge or punk. Now maybe this is a store that's kind of doing all of the above. If that's the case, that's fine. But if not, then sometimes we have to kind of pick and choose what's good and what's bad as far as imagery goes. So I'm anxious to take a look at your designs. I'm anxious for you guys to take a look at them, but hopefully this makes some sense. And if you're thinking, oh man, I really missed this mark completely, it's okay. Just a lesson learned that you should go back. Always do your homework. Always do your research. Research your clients. Research the design they're trying to get you to do. Research their competition. And research isn't just Google. Google is a great asset. Don't get me wrong. Google the heck out of this client and everything about them. But also, don't hesitate to go and visit, go and talk, go and meet people. When you're trying to figure out your target audience, the best thing you can do is to be in that environment. If I were to ask you, for example, what's it like to walk through a Hollister store in a mall, you could probably envision, for those of you who've been there, it's dark, it's loud, it smells like nasty Hollister cologne. But there is certainly an environment to it. By going to a place like that, seeing what it looks like, hearing what the loud music's like, smelling the smells, talking to the people, it would give you an impression of that company, and that's kind of what you got to do with your clients. You can't do that obviously much with Little Punk Fashion, but hopefully you got a little bit of experience in this.